Hi everyone, today we're building undo functionality that is related to undo in various editors, UI applications, and stuff like that. And everything you need to know to be able to implement it is the fact that if you treat every action in the user interface as an object, and if you use that to, say, push it onto the stack of operations and then be able to pop it from there, then that's pretty much everything you need in order to be able to implement the undo operation for anything. And if you need a bit more kind of concrete examples, then that's what we're going to do. Let's get some stuff going. I'm going to have a simple scene, which is going to be a vertical box. And then we're going to add some buttons to that box, or some kind of text, I suppose. And then we're able to then undo what we've done. Let's try that. Yeah, let's go with standard stuff. So we need a button add. Actually, we need a text field first, because what I'm thinking is we could have a text field which is going to have some text in it, which we're able to modify. And then that text field is going to be used to create a new control to be added to the root. Button set on action. Let's create a new text which will contain the word or the text from the field that is on top of it, and then root get children, add them in the specific order, and then this newly created text gets added to the root. Yeah, let's go with that. So I have a text field, let's say just text, click add, it adds this text object. We need to increase the font a little bit on these things. Set font something like 22 should be doable. Button and then text. Yeah, so everything you will now see is going to be a bit bigger. Test. So these are all text objects that we create in that button. So now the idea is to implement an undo button, which will undo everything we've done. And then that should help you understand how to understand one way of implementing the undo operation. So this is going to be called button add, and we need another one called button remove. Actually, no, undo, right? Because we're not removing, we're simply undoing what we've done. So this gets here. Simply undo. Right, so how do we actually implement this whole thing? Well, for starters, I'm going to use the same class here. So we need to represent every action inside the user interface as an object. And the way you normally do this is you create an interface. Call it something like UI action. This interface will then have, for our use case, two functions: run and undo, which means every action knows how to run itself and how to undo itself, which is great because this generalizes easily. You can add stuff like redo and other things that you would normally see in user interface applications. For example, even here in the IDE, if I click edit, I can see cut, copy, paste, delete, and so on. And then you simply have a stack. Or in my case, I'm going to use array dicu, which is going to contain my UI actions, and I'm going to call it history. So this is going to store your actions in the order you invoked them, which means this new text adding needs to become an object. And so we're going to create our own class called add text, which is going to implement our UI action. And then obviously we need to implement the two methods that go with it. And then in order to add text, I essentially need the string text and then the thing to which I'm adding, so the root, which means I need a constructor to store two things. I need the parent, which is root, to which I'll be adding, and then I need string, which is literal text. And then hopefully IDE can generate me a constructor for both. Nice. And then run means execute the action. So you might want to rename this to execute, but with run, we're going to do exactly what we did here. We're going to cut this and just paste it. So this is the UI text, new text. This is the text that I'm reading, and this is the root. Get children is not available on the parent. Well, never mind. What is it that we're adding to? Vertical box, which is a pane. So let's go with pane. So this will run it and undo. So what is actually undo? Undo is the same operation, but the other way, sort of like you're reversing the operation that you've done. So what we need to do in this case is to remove this thing from the root, which means we need to store it somewhere. I'm not checking for nulls and stuff like that, so I'm not doing that. You may wish to, depending on how your use case works out, because in this case I will know that run is going to be executed before undo. So root get children, remove the UI text. Run, undo. Should be pretty straightforward. And now we need to have undo and we need to have run, both of which need to, well, run needs to take the action. So from now on, we're not going to be calling this thing directly. We need to actually create an object for every action that we do. And so we need to be able to run these actions. And the way we can do them, we can run them is by just having this method, which will add it to the stack, history, add action, and then action run. Now the last thing we need to add is whenever the button is clicked, I'm going to run this new action. So for each action, you need to create a new object. And the text is this thing, and then the root is root. Right, so it's slightly different from what we normally do because we'll just execute the code, right? But in this case, it's creating an object to represent the code, if you will, and then kind of defer it to here. So it runs the piece of code that is held within this object on our behalf. And then finally, we have this undo button that we need to implement, which we can do by, well, first we check history is empty. If it is, then there is nothing to undo. If it isn't, then we can get last action from history, pop last, get last, pull last. So what does that do? Remove last is what we want. So we don't want to query it, we want to remove it. And we know there is at least one item because of this check. And we need to make sure that we add items from the end. So we remove them from the end. Right, so we've removed this item from history. And guess what? We simply call undo on it. We don't need to understand what undo means in this context because the object itself does. And that's the beauty of this command pattern. I think that's it. Let's go for it. Test, hello. So I've just added a bunch of text, and if I click undo, then this text goes away in the reverse order. And let's just add more stuff. So undo should remove hello before test, because that's the thing that we added last. And then finally undo this. If I click undo more, well, right now it does nothing because there is this check that allows us to see if there are any items in history. Now let's just implement another action such as remove text so that you get to see both sides. And the opposite of remove is add, which is really nice. Suppose all of these things that we add, so this UI text, is also clickable. Why not? In which case we need to pass in the action that we want to run over here somewhere. So set on mouse clicked action run. Right. I hope you're not confusing what this does with what this is doing. So this is just some arbitrary piece of code that will run when I click the text that is created by this. And what I want to do is to be able to click on the text and that text gets removed from the root. Which is easier to do probably by not passing this in, but creating this as a separate object. This is the user interface action, and then we can query this UI text set on mouse clicked. We need to run another action. Yeah, that looks good. So we don't need to pass this in. We don't need to do that either. And that UI action is going to be another one of those. So it's remove, which means we will be able to remove any text object by clicking on it, and then we can undo to re-add the text. which implements UI action again. And now you'll have two examples of UI actions or implementations of, which means you should be able to then generalize this to any use cases that you need. And then this will be something like new, remove text, and we need to pass in the things that we need. And then we run the action as per usual. Move text needs to have access to the root again and the text user interface text object. Let's create a constructor. And then run, because we're removing something, is root get children remove UI text. Which means if we want to revert the action, we add the UI text back. So remove text needs to take the UI object, which is action UI text, and then the root. Okay, that seems reasonable. Let's try that. And you'll note that we haven't changed anything else with regard to how undo works. Test, add. Okay, what's happening? Action UI text. Remember when I was saying that it can't be null? Well, it's null because it needs to run before UI text gets assigned. So we'll just switch the order. Test, hello. So if I click on hello, it disappears because of this. Set on mouse clicked, this line above, runs the remove text action that we just created. So if I undo it, it adds the thing back. And I can undo it again, which reverts the add text action. And then if I undo again, that should get rid of the original test. And then undo won't work because there is no history anymore. So you can see how powerful this can be. And this pattern works for everything. You can implement more or less the majority of the operations that you would normally expect from a editor type app or some other type where you have all these functionalities, essentially cut, copy, paste, delete, add, remove, even things like move around. If you're moving something, you're changing its XY, and you can write an action for it. It just becomes move action, which takes the original X and Y and the new X and Y. And then remove, or rather undo, is just shifting the new X and Y back to the old X and Y. So you can see how this works in general. Right, on this note, I'll just quickly recap. So we implemented a simple undo app using a stack-based history data structure, which stores all of the actions that we applied in our application. An action is defined as a simple interface which contains just two methods for now, run and undo. You could easily extend that by adding, say, something like redo, which would effectively just run, right? So redo and run are very similar. There might be some differences for complex actions, but you'll have to think about it. We then implemented our actions not as code necessarily. Well, I suppose everything is code, but not direct code, if you know what I mean. We implemented them as objects, and they implement this UI action, which nicely allows us to when we run, just call a run on the action object, and when we undo, just call undo on the action object. On that note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.